Hey everybody, welcome to our weekly ecosystem office hours call. I am your host Jinx, and we are joined as always by the best and brightest in the Pocket ecosystem. Before we go into protocol updates, wanted to talk about a few things on the foundation side. I appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting around the updated Shannon tokenomics. One of the things that was suggested in the course of conversation with several node runners was getting that started before Shannon goes live, potentially before the end of the month. So I would like to get as much feedback as possible on the tokenomics and on whether folks feel like they're ready for that changeover. I know that opinions are varied about that, so the expectation is that by getting our economics tightened up, that we can start to reverse the course of the value of the token, which, as everyone has seen, I'm sure in the last week, has been, well, fucking painful is probably the best way to describe that. So if you have not looked at the economics guidance in the forum, please do take a couple of minutes and read through that. And if if you have some thoughts about the priority in getting that implemented, as in not waiting for Shannon to be fully live before that happens, please add those thoughts as well. Also, we have been working on the numbers for the what we call the F-Chains 2 program. I have been meeting with a number of node runners along the way who are supporting that program currently. One of the things that we've been doing is gathering the current rev shares that people are charging and trying to get a sense for what it takes to support a replacement program for the current cash subsidies that are being put out there. Some of the things that we've heard from a feedback perspective have indicated that it's going to need to be probably a much stronger program than what we'd initially envisioned, given the state of where token prices are and given how some folks have had to aggressively increase their rev share to account for that in order to stay solvent or break even, or at least somewhere close to break even. So we are putting additional thought into that. As far as maybe something that is a little more adjustable as a reflection of the market itself. So stay tuned. We will have updated details on that as soon as possible, just trying to make sure that we do a good job of accounting for everyone's needs along the way. And obviously supporting the key node runners in the network who are helping to keep those programs alive. And with that, I will turn it over to Fred for our protocol updates.
Thank you, Jinx. I should be short and sweet today, and I have something to show, which is exciting. But when we talk about Shannon, that's where I'm going to start. I just want to say that Judgment Day is in sight. You can expect an announcement in the very near future, in the next week or so, about when Judgment Day for the cutover from Morse to Shannon will be. So stay tuned. We will lock in a hard date in the very near future. In the meantime, we will be heads down in tackling any key risks or any, dotting every I, crossing every T, and really ensuring that the chain will be stable and that the transition process for all users, from your average wallet holder to suppliers to gateways to any player in our ecosystem, will have an exceptionally smooth transition from Morse to Shannon, and that the chain will not halt. I'm going to knock on wood now. I'm knocking on wood every 30 seconds these days. So that is our expectation. We want to have it be so smooth that you barely know that it happened. So that's pretty much all I have on Shannon. Please stay tuned to social channels, Discord, etc., for the announcement. When we talk about Path, how many people know that we ran internal demo of real prod traffic of Path last week? Did you even notice that it happened? I bet you didn't. And that's exactly how we want it to be. However, scaling that up so that it replaces our existing infrastructure is a bit of a bear. So before we go any further, I'm just going to share the preliminary numbers. We are very actively trying to transition to Path. However, our legacy infrastructure is taxing us a bit. It was built by a team of 80 people, and there are now 9 people who work at Grove. So it's quite a bit of infrastructure to manage for such a small team. I personally deleted 60,000 lines of code last week, which resulted in a net cost reduction of $15,000 a month on the cloud. So I'm very pleased with that, but even more pleased I am with this. So give me a second to just share my screen. Yes, this application, this one. Discord. They changed it to the new Zoomer interface, and I can't figure it out anymore. Okay. Last week, before the weekend, we ran Path in prod it's actually in Asia. This thing doesn't actually work. We ran this in Southeast Asia for 33% of the total production load. How many people have seen a success rate of 100% before? That's pretty nice. I can actually, if we compare, I'll even do this live. This is how much transparency we're promising today. If we go in and we look at our Grove Gateway, you can see our success rates across the board are, maybe 99, maybe 98, and quite a few a little bit lower than that. We want 99 at least, but 100 or 99 with so many decimals that it's basically 100, awesome. It also is at the point where we can identify some of our weak spots for QoS. How do we get the success rate on trace filter up? Well, maybe we have to offer ETH versus Geeth versus Reeth versus Bisu versus Nethermind. How do we get our Web3 API, success rates up? There's one of them on here that was a little bit lower. Well, we might need a QoS check on Path. As always, if you want to follow along with this development, it is all fully transparent, and we have all of our team conversations on GitHub about it. So just stay tuned to the issues, stay tuned to the PRs, and you will have a very good and transparent look at what is happening for both Path and Shannon. I'm stopping streaming now.
Are you stopping everything now? I feel like he accidentally turned off his mic at the same time. Yeah, I think you're right, Breezy. Computer, please make sure that you're muted if you're not speaking, or I'll have to server mute you and then you can't unmute yourself. Perfect. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, yeah, your mic was gone. You said, I'm stopping streaming now, and then that was it. You went quiet.
Oh, lame Discord. All right. Well, either way, metrics are good. We're happy with them. Path good. Shannon good. Get excited.
Hell yeah. And for everyone who is if you're not following along on GitHub and you are deeply plugged into the ecosystem or reliant on the progress of the ecosystem for what you're doing, then definitely do make sure that you're subscribed to the GitHub and follow along there. Issues are published. You can join conversations there. And hell, if you see something that you think is a bug or could be fixed, you are welcome to submit a PR around that as well. And 100% success rate versus 95% success rate in infrastructure, that is like 1,000%. For anyone who's not familiar with exactly how impactful that difference is. There's, when we measure the success rates in the difference of 3 nines to 5 nines, meaning 99.999 versus 5 nines, a 5% difference is very, very significant. So happy to see that as well. Okay, and I think that takes us to the end of our scheduled agenda items. So it's quarter after, and we got all the time in the world. It's wide open. So open topics, questions, suggestions, etc.
What are the other metrics that you guys are possibly thinking of instead of staking on node operators to make them whole?
I'm sorry, I'm not really sure I'm following.
I believe one of the drivers you were saying was you guys, the foundation, might be able to help subsidize instead of the F-chain subsidy by staking on node operators. If the price of the token is at 1 cent or whatever, and it needs to really be at like 10 or 11 cents to be break even, what are the other paths forward to keep the node operators sustainable so that the network has time to drive traffic other than the current plan?
Oh, got it. You mean on the F-chains program itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so part of that is looking at, I mean, the hard cash perspective of what was being budgeted for initially is just not sustainable, especially not with price action currently. Then it's just a race to see who can go insolvent first, and nobody wins on that one. So we are looking at, what are all the possible options for how an F-chains replacement or F-chains 2 could work. Staking with a up to 100% rev share is definitely the core of the thought around that. But that being said, in talking to multiple node runners, looking at where rev shares are or where people are in relation to being upside down, and we had calculated previously that even the most efficient node runners needed 7 cents to be profitable. So we are obviously way the hell below that right now. So looking at other options which keep up with our goal to not negatively impact the marketplace directly, that would be things like either subsidizing with Pocket versus USD, or also things like deeply analyzing what traffic is occurring on the network and optimizing to remove chains that simply don't have enough organic demand. Part of that might be shifting to an on-demand model for various chains that are low traffic currently, so that if people request that and have a commitment to sending that amount of traffic, node runners could spin up support for that, but not maintaining those chains all the time. It doesn't make sense to keep paying out for that amount of infrastructure just to be able to say we support a chain that doesn't currently have any action. I'm looking at some of the chains that were brought on recently where the network themselves either has cratered or their ecosystem has. I mean, everybody saw what happened with Mantle this last week, I'm sure. Does it make sense for us to pay to maintain a channel for that? I'm having a hard time. I know that the original thoughts around that were maintaining brand equity about the number of chains that are supported, but I honestly don't think that Jinx chain being supported makes any real sense from an economics perspective, if there's no real traffic coming across that. So it's coming from both sides. A, really deeply evaluating what chains actually need to be alive and to be supported, and B, what things can we actually afford to do from a sustainable budget perspective to keep those things live. So I don't have all the answers yet, but I will say that we are very much, looking at what subsidy options are still possible above and beyond, like extremely friendly rev share. But it has to be a reduction in net cash spent by the foundation.
Understood. Are you guys building out scenario analysis to, let's say, Shannon launches and let's say you go with scenario A where you stake on to certain node operators with 100% rev share. Let's say that those node operators, given the new burn, there's no min function and the new tokenomics, they're now even more underwater than they were with Morse. What's scenario B? I mean, like, what do you guys do to say if like the node operators go, well, we're making 10% of what we made, and now we're burning shit tons of money every month. We're not going to keep running. What do you do?
Well, first of all, I want to make sure that there's something corrected there. It's not that there's no mint function. It's that mint and burn are at parity. That's an important distinction. There's no net growth in total supply because mint and burn are at parity, and that's where the major change in the inflationary tokenomics come in. The network stops becoming inflationary, and that is, I mean, every single person who's done analysis has said that capping the inflation of the network is critical to being able to rebuild economic value and support for that. The very first economics document that was ever written in Pocket Network suggested that there would be an expectation of nodes being added and nodes being unstaked, given where the economics are and given how demand was. And, you know, there is absolutely a reality that if there is not enough revenue within the network based on traffic and based on all those things, that nodes will be unstaked along the way. If, you know, we know that we can cover capacity and throughput, and it has been said many, many, many times that the network is over provisioned. We've gone from a peak at around 45,000 nodes down to around 11,000 nodes, which is already a 75% reduction in total nodes staked on the network. And the expectation could very much be that it goes down even more until we've hit a point where we're at parity with what the actual traffic is through the network. So, as much as possible, we're trying to stay well above capacity. We don't want to be running at capacity. And so everything that we're looking at is how can we support supply and demand side as we go through these changes and start to get into what I think a lot of people would describe as real economics, actual supply and demand driving both sides of the network. But the reality of profitability is certainly going to come into play on that, and there's only so much that can be done around that. Leroy asks, given the fact that the price of Pocket is tanking, how much time would you estimate that Pocket Network can survive if price and market cap continues to nosedive? If price and market cap continues to nosedive, I mean, I don't know. If it went to zero, then next week. The expectation is that by doing the things that need to be done to get our economics tight and to make sure that that information is widely and broadly distributed among all interested speculators, that we'll start to see an improvement in the token value, not continue to nosedive. But that question itself is like asking, how long can I keep paying my bills if the value of $1 goes to zero? Probably not long.
I just think it's kind of funny because from what you're saying, you could still have every single node staked with one operator that could survive because the rev share would still be the same going to him or her or whatever. But given the network being decentralized, you want to have multiple operators. But if you're consolidating down, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's kind of
I completely get it.
It's a double-edged sword for sure on that one. But
and decentralization is core to the ethos of Pocket. So I mean, there's nothing in our perspective that has changed on the need to be able to support a diverse supply group to maintain decentralization, because that is critical to the mission.
So realistically, we could just see a drop in node operators until the demand pipeline kicks in.
I mean, speaking realistically, yeah. I don't see any way around the hard economics of that if we're not able to start to achieve a meaningful reversal on price.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Fred mentioned one of the favorite blockchain RPC providers has indicated interest in launching on Path, and so are several of our existing customers due to the recent growth increase in price. That's one of the things that we're driving very aggressively on the demand side is getting people onboarded to Path, so that we can begin increasing that paid adoption, because that makes all the difference in the world. If we have the burn that is occurring at actual paying customers, I mean, that's anybody who understands business can understand the concept that if people aren't paying for use of the protocol, then the protocol isn't sustainable. And so driving the increase in demand is the highest of focuses when it comes to our post-launch landscape. We know that we need to get paid relays up 10x over where they are right now in order to begin to achieve sustainability. That's our very first target. And along with that, the derivative burn, that would be approximately 500,000 pocket a day burned at current prices. And seeing that sort of economic activity or tokenomics activity specifically in the network should help drive additional speculation on future increased value. I am obviously not a financial advisor of any sort. I'm just relaying the market assumptions that have been relayed to us by analysis. Those are all the things that have to come together to work in tandem to reverse where we're at from a network value perspective. Oh, and I missed Fred's earlier comment. The reality of chains is that they spike in activity. The reality of running infra is it costs money consistently. When you can solve that dichotomy, then we'll be good to go. Yeah, I mean, we can't solve that dichotomy. We only have to look realistically at where we are. The old saying of you can't get blood out of a rock. That's just the reality. If we had the flexibility in market value to be able to support chains that essentially get no organic activity, then we would continue to do so, but we can't.
I think a good example of this is Doge Chain. It was extremely successful for its short-lived time on Pocket. It was one of the top chains, top earners. But we have to be okay with some chains dying. It's really hard for gateways too, because you don't know what products you're going to be able to offer. But yeah, I mean, you have to be able to drive demand to the products that you have to offer. And if you're a retail store, you can't have drinks on the shelf that don't sell through. You might just have to take the loss and not have those drinks anymore.
Yeah, and that's a great analogy because we're looking at how much shelf space do we have, and can we afford to stock products that we're not selling. I would love to see business development increase on a number of fronts. We've often talked in the past about business development being the arena of the apps on the network themselves. They're the ones selling access to the data that they're providing. But we are in the process of building out additional business development resources from the foundation perspective so that we can drive new leads to the network and hand them off to the various apps as relevant in order to assist apps doing BD along the way. So everyone who is offering a data service on Pocket Network, we're going to be trying to support them from a sales generation perspective as well. It's critical to the survival and sustainability of the network. I see Breezy's typing. The issue is that even with the chains we're selling, the current price action makes it difficult, if not impossible, for node runners to charge a high enough rev share percentage to break even, let alone turn a profit. Yep, agreed completely. Everything that we are doing right now is a band-aid. The only real solution is for us to recover in price action. He says, this is why I'm in favor of turning burn mint on right now, so we have an idea of where we are as protocol in terms of real supply and demand. I'm in favor of this as well. That's something that I've been asked about by a couple of folks. A couple of other folks have said that they are not in favor of that they are pushing back against it. I think the sooner we start to address the single heaviest cause of negative price action, and that being inflation with unpaid protocol relays, the sooner we get to a place where speculators are interested in again participating in the network and in not being concerned that their bags are going to be diluted away by inflation in unpaid emissions. This is something that we've known for a long time. We've talked about forever, with Shannon moving towards a mint and burn parity. We also know that through the simple math that mint and burn parity is a negotiation between demand side and supply side. How much is willing to be paid versus how much are people willing to work for? Currently, the price of Pocket being where it is means that no one, I mean, I can't think of anyone who could possibly be in profit, no matter how efficiently you're running at this particular point. So until the price action begins to recover, there's no profitability for anyone. So the process of turning that around needs to happen sooner rather than later. I'm very much in favor of that. And that also means that, potentially we can reduce the total amount of infrastructure that's in the network as well in current usage to get that a little more right-sized. I think the other question that brings up is, what are we doing with all of the nodes in Pocket that wants to be staked? And that's also a reason why I'm in favor of redistributing the ratios of reward emissions to favor validators. Because since validators can be staked aggressively vertically, there's a place for all that Pocket to go in both securing the network and in competing for positions with the validation pool. That's a way that we can completely reallocate how Pocket is staked across the network without needing to have 50,000 nodes staked. If everyone is staking out nodes to 60K and then expanding horizontally beyond that, shifting that to the average entry of validators being above 100,000 Pocket, and top end or multi-ticket validators being up around 200,000-300,000 or higher, provides a place for the Pocket to be staked in a meaningful and useful way and still participate in a fairly significant reward pool. I think if we have validator rewards up around 30% or so, that it makes a lot more economic sense to have Pockets sunk there from that perspective. And people will be more comfortable with having Pocket staked to that degree if they're seeing a commensurate increase in the rewards that they would be seeing, and more specifically in the value of those rewards. So that's something that is hot on my radar right now. Some of y'all have seen the white paper I wrote up almost a year ago at this point. We are looking at what are the fine-tuned details of that to make it make sense. The other part of that equation is currently validator rewards are not supported in RevShare, and so we would need to look at what changes need to be made in the protocol to support adding validator rewards to the RevShare so that node runners themselves can support that in a meaningful way without it being, something that involves like payback from a customer, secondary processes, or whatever else. I think everyone prefers that the automated rev share process, and so we'd like to see that supported on the validator rewards as well. Yeah, Jeff said, I don't see a reason why the price won't recover, especially with the success rate being the way it is. The cost of using Pocket as an RPC provider is far less. Perhaps not enough people and businesses not knowing about Pocket, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So it seems everything is just pending on the Shannon release. And Michael said, not enough people know about Pocket to make a difference in price. I agree broadly with that assessment. We often see Pocket left out of conversations or lists where it belongs. That has been a frustration to a lot of us for a long time, I think. And so that's why we have so aggressively increased the amount of marketing that's been done since the beginning of the year. I have personally been on countless podcasts and AMAs at this point, just in the last couple of months, making sure that we're getting the word out there as broadly as possible. Our marketing company, Truth Cartel, is also recruiting YouTubers and various other folks who want to make Pocket a regular and recurring part of their conversations and participating in the network. We've had some success in the past with folks like, Chico Crypto when they were talking about us. And we think that with similarly engaged people, we can get those conversations going again. But it has to be paired again, and I'll keep hammering that over and over. It has to be paired with strong actual tokenomics that are sustainable and that have a true reflection of supply and demand. Breezy said, isn't Shannon based on one staked Pocket node per chain? If that's the case, we're going to need a lot of Pocket staked. There were a lot of changes we were supposed to make before Shannon launched, and this has always been my concern. We've been putting too many eggs in the Shannon basket. Gandalf absolutely was setting that up in advance, but as Ramiro was saying, no. There are, the Shannon launch itself is the V1 of Pocket Network. We've been on V0 all this time, the various iterations of that, and it will be V1.0. So there will be a significant amount of iteration that is still occurring after launch. We have a 12-month roadmap on protocol development after Shannon goes live. So that is all, part of the things that are being looked at is prioritizing which features need to be live first, and how to weight those appropriately based on what's going to be best for the network, what's going to be the most contributing to the health of the network and sustainability, etc. So there will be a significant amount of Pocket staked eventually on a service or perspective based on the relationship of chains to nodes. You're killing me, Fred. But I think we saw when we were at 40 plus thousand nodes that there is no real benefit to that. All it does is dilute per node stake, and actually ends up causing some additional overhead to the network because of the amount of broadcast and such that has to happen along the way. So having the right amount of hardware to run to meet the demand with appropriate overage on capacity is the goal here. The network has to be efficient and it has to be financially sustainable. Y'all's chat is so funny, given the number of times I've been called Gandalf. We are getting up near the top of the hour, but there's some minutes left. So if you have other questions, please feel free to ask them. I see Ramiro is typing. In the den, they ask, when zero, why not moon? We need answers for this now. Man, let me tell you. It's the job of community leaders and the foundation to not just make the hard decisions, but also to stand up in front of the audience and answer the hard questions. I am not at all a fan of our current market conditions. I am deeply personally invested in Pocket, so I am pretty much relying on all of this working in order to be able to retire without being a bagger at Publix. No shade to the Publix folks. But I mean, it is what it is, right? And I would love to paint a happy song and dance, but I can't. The only thing that we can effectively do is tell you that we are working with all of our ecosystem partners and with every analyst and economist that we have access to, and we are banging on the marketing, and we are committed to having the reversal in value that we expect. Shannon is an innovative leap forward in what's possible with decentralized open data, and it would be a goddamn shame to get this far and to launch the product and to essentially end up insolvent. And that also goes for everyone who has invested in the network along the way and who's built businesses on the network and who's been an active and contributing part of the ecosystem. We don't want to see anyone fail. We don't want to see the network fail. I don't want to see me fail. So we are deeply aligned in interests and incentives, and everything that we can do to help us all get across the line, we will do. We are not acting in arbitrary or capricious fashion. One of the compliments I think that we've gotten over the last several months, which I think has been super meaningful, is how connected to the ecosystem the foundation has been. We live and breathe this. We've built businesses in this space. Everyone who is here, who's working now, has been part of this for a long time. Tracy is a recent addition to the foundation team and co-wrote the very first economics white paper that was written for Pocket back in 2019. We are OGs and we're believers, and we're going to keep fighting until we get this thing across the line. So at the very least, you can count on that. Could Pocket be helpful to address the most recent outages by AWS? Probably not. Primarily, Pocket is about data syndication. If there is a CDN outage, like, if Cloudflare was out, then Pocket could probably cover that gap. But AWS outages are primarily related to compute, and Pocket is not a compute network. That would be something more along the lines of like Akash. I see Breezy typing still. I think given where we are in time, that'll be the last question. I wonder if Pocket Network should send out a survey to customers so we can get a clearer understanding of where we stand as a product. Maybe it's something Grove could help facilitate. Yeah, it's not really something the foundation can do because individual customers of apps on the network are known only to those apps themselves. And in some cases, not even then. As we start to move more and more into a permissionless state on the network, many of the users of the network themselves will be anon. That's part and parcel of it, and that's by design. That is, critical to the ethos of the network, but it does also create difficulties sometimes, as we've seen in the past. Even with things like upgrades that need 2/3 of the validators to confirm on in order for the upgrade to be adopted. It's very difficult sometimes to coordinate a decentralized permissionless network. But yep, if Grove wanted to run that, or any of the other gateways, certainly happy to see the data.
I can tell you from anecdotal and the number of relays that the number one thing that customers care about is getting 100% uptime. Like, that is what they care about. They want a Web 2 API experience. They don't care about decentralization. They don't care about Pocket Network. They care about cheap and successful relays. Those are the only things that customers care about. And every single customer that we have load balances Grove amongst 10 other providers, and they are doing their own meta quality of service checks at all times, and they have a load balancer that picks the best and cheapest at all times. That's what customers want.
Yeah, and that's to me that makes perfect sense. Gateways themselves being enterprise class demand aggregators. That's the expectation, and that's one of the reasons why we want to push so hard for horizontal growth across the network, because single purpose apps are less likely to be load balancing Pocket. They're more likely to be building directly on Pocket, like we see with the PGA folks. And that makes Pocket much more important to them than it does to a large chain or such, which is load balancing Pocket as one of a number of providers. So we really think that the long-term growth and sustainability of the network is tied to many, many, many path users, not just a handful of gateways. All right. And with that, we are reaching the top of the hour. So once again, I appreciate everyone who makes time to come and join these conversations every week. We are always here to answer these questions and to work with y'all. So we'll see y'all again, same time, same channel next week.
Thanks, everyone.